Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Artistry podcast. I am Sev.
And I'm Jay.
This is the podcast where we talk about art is try. What does that mean? We'll soon find out. So, today on this episode, we're going to talk about a very controversial topic known as separating art from the artist. We all have our favorite art, but then when we realize the artist is a piece of shit, does it affect your opinion of the art? Should you perhaps distance it, or is it sometimes the grievous allegations against the artist so severe that you feel like, you know what, I don't want to support anything this guy does or woman, and so no matter how good the quality of the art, I'm just not going to participate in it. Is that good? Is that not? Are we jumping too much into morality instead of actual art? Well, this is what this podcast is going to be all about.
And also the corollary. What if you love the artist, but his art is shit? What if it is your son, your daughter, or maybe the parent of your children? Oh, would you still be able to separate their art from your love for them? Yeah, that's pretty much
you
it.
Shouldn't.
And also we will kind of go very specifically into Arcane, which will be our best clickbait ever, I hope. Yeah, but we do want to talk about that specifically. This was kind of what inspired this topic. Yeah.
Ideally, we also like to we're going to talk about some examples, and I'm also going to speak personally about me in the book, my own book, which as I always do every podcast.
Yes.
But we also want to hear from people who have their own examples. Famously in Hollywood, you have the Woody Allen example, a guy who apparently was a piece of shit, but people really love his movies. I'm not very familiar with that, so I'm just going to leave it at that. More famous example that I'm just going to touch now, I don't know if you want to then touch a bit on later, is Louis C.K., a famous comedian who was very beloved comedian for being this kind of like everyday Joe sort of character, who then turns out he was a bit of a perv in his personal life, and that kind of made the audience cancel culture on him, and then he was basically forced into hiding. And those are the two main examples. And Louis C.K., objectively as a comedian, I think he's hilarious.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get into the meat of the discussion a bit later.
Yes.
Yeah. I just want to say we'll also kind of have a small short kind of announcement. Well, whatever. We want to set up donations. So hopefully we'll have it out with this episode. Hopefully, I mean that's the expectation. And we do want to, if we'll have time, we'll get a touch on the contest, because we're kind of trying to get that lifted off the ground, but we're having some some things that need to be ironed out, so to speak, before we start it, so we can be sure that everything goes smoothly.
Because my memory is absolute shit, have we talked about the art contest that we want to do?
We mentioned it briefly. Yeah.
Oh, no,
or
okay.
I don't know. We didn't go into too much detail, but we can go a little bit more into detail if we have time. I don't know. I think we're going to go on a lot of rants today on this topic, and yeah, all those details will be in the comments as usual. Drop your comments, do the stuff, the usual stuff, do the clickety clackety. You know how it goes.
Exactly. So, shall we already jump into the discussion?
Oh yeah.
Okay, the main focus of today's episode is going to be on Arcane. I've mentioned before that I'm a champion for animated series. Like, I feel like there's untapped potential there, that there are a lot of good ideas that only work really on a more high artistic value. Imagine, for example, something sci-fi or something fantasy. You can waste a bajillion on special effects and actors and all that shit, or you can just paint it out and use animation. And there's so many good stories with voice acting and just beautiful scenery that can be told through that medium that I've always felt like it was underused, underappreciated. And I was kind of... My background with Arcane, for those who don't know, Arcane is a series that came out on Netflix, which is very closely associated with League of Legends. In fact, I think it's basically lore at this point. And League of Legends is an...
It's based on that story. I know for a fact that they did not copy all the lore from the lore they have in the database. Okay. So it is based on a story. They kind of had some changes, but yeah, like the people are definitely from the lore. That but yeah, some stories are a bit different, and I feel for the better. I'll say it right away. I feel for the better. Yeah.
Good. This is a good also point to say that I watched Arcane, not having played League of Legends, not being associated with League of Legends at all. I know of the game genre, the MOBA genre. I've played Dota, but I know nothing of League of Legends lore. However, Jay, I don't know if he's the exact opposite, but he is well familiarized with it, and we're gonna make a little bit of a fun game later on. But no spoilers so far. We'll talk about it when we get there.
We'll keep you on the edge. It's just sort of fun stuff. Not for you, for 7i, but you will be an audience on what we're going to be doing.
Arcane.
Yes. And there's a comment on that. I did play League of Legends, but I stopped for years. I don't know. It's been 2 or 3 years since I played last. So.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing with me and Dota. But on Arcane, like as I said, it's this show that was based off a video game. On movies, each time someone makes a movie out of a video game, it's kind of shit. And I was feeling like Arcane was just another cash grab for the huge audience that League of Legends has. So at the time, I kind of ignored it until I started seeing the first images of the series. And as an artist, I just looked at those images and immediately said, "Wow, that looks fucking gorgeous." I don't know if the story has the consistency to back up the imagery, but I immediately felt guilty because I wanted to see it, and this is where the topic of art versus artist goes.
Yes. Why did you feel guilty?
Because I know that Riot Games, the company behind Arcane, is, let's just say, of dubious morality. Since 2008 onward, they've been attacked with lawsuit after lawsuit of sexual discrimination. There are reports and investigations that says that basically inside Riot Games is a bro culture where women are kind of treated like, or some women are treated like sex objects, or they speak very down to them derogatorily, with a lot of kind of like a frat boy culture. And that is one side of the problems. There is others about where the esports divisions, there has been other controversy about underpaid talent. It's also been said Arcane, the show itself, has underpaid artists, which is absolutely insane to me, which is a show that the visuals is basically half the appeal of the show. And Arcane to me just seems like a scummy, greedy company that is also associated with Tencent, which is a company in China who is also known for being scummy and greedy. So all this just paints this corporate world of old businessmen just kind of grubbing a thing. What do the kids like? Yeah, put more of that. And all the messages of the show, because the show actually has a lot of LGBT positive messages. It has a lot of diversity in all characters, and it actually feels like a show that was made in earnest to appease all people. And it was done not so for monetary reasons, but it felt like it was done in genuine attempt to just have equal representation. But at the same time, because I know the company behind it, I keep thinking that's not an earnest attempt for diversity. That's just people. Oh yeah, that's gonna get more clicks. Yeah, put a black chick there. Oh yeah, that's exactly the quota that we needed to achieve. And I have this duality in me that I want to appreciate Arcane for what it is, but at the same time, I don't know if I have the mindset to separate it from the people who I know are behind it. What's your opinion?
I do want to add a little bit to that. I'm not sure how fair most of those arguments are, considering that we're talking about separating art from the creator. And although League of Legends or Riot Games from League of Legends directed or probably started the initiative for this TV show Arcane, Fortiche, a French animation company, was the main body behind the actual creation, right? So, I mean, how much do you know about Fortiche? Because I don't. But is it fair to shit on this piece because Riot Games has such a bad reputation? What about Fortiche, who was maybe blindsided, that didn't care, or that maybe they're also grubby old people with a lot of money who just want more money, more power. I mean, Fortiche was the studio that did the animation.
The size of this project I would claim that probably Fortiche was one of the production companies that were associated with the development of the show. Mm-hmm. So probably they had a big role in it, and maybe that's why I felt like the show was again so well diversely, like all the representation of the show looked gorgeous, looked beautiful, it looked wholesome. So I guess that probably the Fortiche production, all the artists there hopefully were well paid. The only thing I know is that there are reports from Riot Games artists being underpaid. So I'm not quite sure if that applies to the artists from Fortiche or if Riot Games also had their own staff of artists helping with the show. Because, that's not just the animation, it's about the concept art of behind the show. You don't just go to a production company like Fortiche and say, okay, we want you to turn this written page into life. No, you have concept art, you have panels, there's a lot of preparation to go before you even start the production of the series. Mm-hmm. So I'm not quite sure if the underpaid artists is from Riot's side or from Fortiche's side.
Okay, well,
so I'm not gonna defend or hype Fortiche.
Very well. I just want to throw it in there to have the full picture, so to speak. I will take this small chance to kind of have a derail. But I will say, for the purposes of our argument today, separating art from the artist, I can definitely separate art from the artist. I maybe would not have been able to, like, when I was younger, but I think my moral, not flexibility, what's the right word? Moral tolerance has increased by a lot, for whatever reason, just from my experience, from what I've seen. And yeah, I can definitely separate one from the other. Also, I didn't. We spoke about this topic like previously, and a little bit about Arcane. We didn't want to talk. So Sev and I didn't want to talk about it too much because we wanted to save the juicy discussion for this podcast. So we didn't actually get our hands on it. But I will say at this point, one thing we discussed was I wanted to say that recently I watched 2 TV shows that were very hyped, which was Arcane is one of them, and the other one is Squid Game. Right? And I told Sev I felt one of them was really meh. It's just another show. And I really felt that the other one was fucking amazing. Now, I want to ask you, the audience, which one do you think I think is the meh show, and which one do you think is
everyone shout amazing? Out your answer.
Yes, shout it now. Yes, wait. Fuck, they're sucking all at the same time, Sev. Fuck. Okay, well, just raise your hand. Guys, raise your hand if you think Arcane is the awesome show. Okay. Right, what about if you think it's Squid Game?
Oh, it didn't work. Everyone, they got confused again.
The lights are too dim for this studio setting today. Anyway, you all participate. I'm sure that there was at least one person who raised their hand. I'm sure it's going to be at least Seth when she listens to this episode later. Yeah. Okay, but so revelation, drums. I don't know if you can hear the drums. Anyway, I think that
no, it's also the lights. You can't hear the drums. The lights are too dim.
I think Squid Game.
Don't think about it.
Squid Game was really meh. Okay, and Arcane is fucking amazing. Now, if you really love Squid Game, it's fine. I will quickly say the reasoning for that on my end. I think Squid Game is nothing original. The story of Battle Royale, whatever, has been used before, and the story is not very carefully made. I mean, a lot of things in that show are kind of predictable and boring, and okay, whatever. It was entertaining to watch, I will say that. And the reason I watched that show is because I've seen the main actor in a movie that I really, really like, and I highly recommend. And take your notepads out. It is called Shinsegae. That's the Korean term, and the title in English would be New World. It's a very good movie. It's kind of heavy. It's kind of long, but it's a really good movie with that actor from Squid Game. So that's kind of what
I would like to just interrupt there to say, the problem with Squid Game that it is a kind of generic story. I would also say the same thing about Arcane. What makes Squid Game interesting is the context of that story in a culture that we're not used to seeing. In fact, I think that most of the hype around Squid Game was its commentary on banking, loans, and how people indebt themselves eternally, and how the rich see this almost as entertainment. It's kind of like the theme, and is what drove the show into more interest in terms of plot. And then the visuals of the show, of Squid Game, is also what immediately made it blow up on social feeds. The girl on the first game of the island immediately became iconic. The thing about the cookie immediately became iconic. It became all these trends because it was just so beautiful. The suits, the PlayStation masks, the island itself with the weird corridors, the sleeping arrangement, all of that was really was fun. And that is also what I would say that Arcane succeeds in, is that the visuals and it is fun, and because it is also animated, Arcane does this even too much, but it also does the very interesting camera shots. Usually when two people are talking, you have one camera looking at their faces,
yes,
like two cameras
framing.
looking at each of their faces.
The framing, yeah.
But Arcane, because the camera doesn't exist, they are allowed to be more creative with their cameras. And this means that every single time someone is speaking, the camera is in this very artistic positioning where your mind almost gets confused and where the fuck are they? Or sometimes you get lost on all the beauty of the scenery, and you kind of get distracted from the conversation because the cameras keep being so dynamic that it kind of distracts you from them talking about passing the salt or whatever. But I'm saying this kind of like a nitpick because I actually feel that is animation done well. Just shows so much visual interest that you're enraptured by anything that they talk about. But at the same time, because you're enraptured, I think that the story of Arcane probably is a bit overhyped. I think it's basically just a revenge story with Joker and Harley Quinn-esque characters, which is not to say that it is a bad show, not at all. I actually really, really liked Arcane. I think it was an amazing show. I just don't think that the comparison you're making about Squid Game being amazing, Squid Game being shit, or you said it was meh. Squid Game being meh and Arcane being amazing. I feel like part of that reason is because Arcane is something that we've never seen before in animation, while Squid Game is something that we've probably, at least visually, we're kind of used to it by now.
No, fair point. For me, it's mostly regarding the story. I'm a person who enjoys a good story. I enjoyed a story of a tiny little book called The Crystal Saga: Children of War. It's a good story.
Yes.
I enjoyed it. It's a good story. Okay, and one of the compliments I made you about that book, why I thought it was good, is that you don't, and apparently there's a term for it that I read up on. So you don't do too much exposition, or I don't remember if you do any exposition. Like, I hate that. It's kind of garbage. I hate that, and they have it in Squid Game fairly often. And Arcane does such a good job of just showing you. And apparently the term is like show don't tell or show no tell or whatever it is.
Yeah, Arcane is very good at that. Yeah.
And dude, it's so good. I will tell you. Like, I didn't want to say it last time we discussed, but Arcane by far is the best show I've seen recently, and I am too hyped because it's still fresh in my mind. But I would probably be almost willing to say it's the best show I've ever seen. Okay, like move over anything I've seen recently. Like what Game of Thrones, well, that was a big disappointment. But I mean, even at the start, Game of Thrones, yeah, I think Arcane is just better in the way they present the story. It's like just so good. I will tell you, this is the only show I've watched, and in the middle of watching it, I was angry at how good it was. I've never had that feeling. Why are you so good? I really was angry. I was really angry, and it's emotionally evocative. The scenes that are predictable, which it always happens, they feel rewarding. I will tell you specifically. Well, I don't want to spoil, so I'm not sure if I should go specifically. But anyway,
probably should not. If you can speak without spoiling,
then I won't say. But okay, scenes that are I don't know if mirrored is the right term, but you have something that happens in a scene earlier on, and then with a character, and then later on in the TV show, it flips to a different character, and the scene is mirrored. So like whatever the position, they kind of swap positions. And when you see the scene being set up, you can see it. You're expecting it, so it's predictable, but it feels really rewarding because it's subtle. It's very beautifully done, and I think
you see a lot of the artistry behind it. Haha, artistry. You see, because it's not just a story being told; it's also like the details. Like
yes,
the story's been told, the drawing boards have been set, but there's an artist there whose only job was he looked at those and felt, wouldn't it be cool if we mirrored these, and let's work it so that there is parallels here being told underneath it all, like discreetly. Let's make it subtle. And I felt the same way watching Detective Pikachu. It's a show that's not a show. It's a movie that is for kids, absolutely for kids. And at the time when I heard that the Detective Pikachu was being made, I felt, oh my god, what a cash grab. But watching that movie, it is obvious that every single animator, artist, 3D artist had so much love for everything they were doing that the vibrancy and the colors and the world felt so much more alive. I actually really appreciate Detective Pikachu, even if it is just a kid movie. And there's the same thing with Arcane, right? It's not just the story being told, is that there's so much thought throughout everything that is obviously a product of love, and you have to appreciate that.
Yeah, and you can definitely tell, and yes, the small details that I don't know, it's just too good, man. I'm still angry. Like even now talking about it, I'm angry. Why is it so good? Like, and now not in the sense that I'm angry at Arcane for being good. It's like, why aren't other things good? Like, why are other things just cash grabs?
Animation was made for these sort of things, for these sort of movies, and it annoys me that we haven't seen more of it. I talked earlier in the podcast's creation, in the podcast's history, about Love, Sex, Robots, or Love, Death, Robots, which is beautiful, absolutely beautiful series of short stories, like these proofs of concept. And I would love if someone pick up one of those stories and just run with it, because it would be an amazing story, like an hour long. Kind of Arcane is an hour long show, like 45 minutes, whatever. And I would love to see more of that, because there is so much more love and detail that artists can put into the show. I don't know how viable it is in terms of budget, but there definitely should be more shows of that caliber than Arcane. Like I talked about last year about a show called Invincible, which is also an animated series, and it is one of the best shows I've seen. It's kind of like a satire against superhero culture, kind of like The Boys. Have you seen The Boys?
I haven't watched it till the end, but yes, I've watched some of it.
All right. Okay, The Boys is this kind of like satire against superhero franchises. It's done in kind of a gritty and funny way. And Invincible is also the same, but animated, and it has a lot more heart. It has a lot more amazing voice acting, in fact. And I felt like the show was one of the best I've seen in 2021. I think it came out. At the same time, the animation was a bit jagged. It wasn't as smooth as Arcane is. The fight scenes in Arcane kind of just makes your jaw drop. It is absolutely, it's like, ooh, it's buttery, it's silky smooth, it's glitter in the eyes. Amazing. I recommend, even if you don't want the story, if you don't watch Arcane, if you don't like League of Legends, yada yada yada, just watch a fighting scene from that show, and you can see how amazing when you join art, animation, and visual storytelling. Oh, it's.
I mean, I will just say, like, if fight scenes is your favorite part, my favorite part are just subtle expressions, the things that almost never appear in most animations because they go on the cheapo side. Like, you have the subtle, just eye shift in a certain scene that communicates so much that you maybe actors would have trouble doing in a real, like, if you're actually filming. Those subtleties are so good.
Yes, because it was animated, it was really impressive. But I do feel like they exaggerated that. Like every character, it reached a point where I feel like every character had a twitch.
Wow, did you have
they all had,
did you reach the what is it called?
Uncanny Valley.
Yes. Did it reach it that
where
point?
everyone kind of like had this need to react. Oh, what? The anime sort. That is another thing that I want to say about Arcane is that I am not a fan of the anime style. I am not. And Arcane is, even though it is not in style, in spirit, it's an anime series. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a lot of that exaggerated. There's also a lot of angst, which I kind of hate, but I take it as it is. This is also kind of a cool show. This kind of reminded me of Final Fantasy, to be honest. Like the whole visual, the aesthetic kind of reminded me of Final Fantasy, but it's very angsty. It's very moody. Everyone feels like they have a ship on their shoulders. Everyone has like this tragic backstory where their parents died, but not before selling them to slavery, but also they were, I don't know, corrupt monarchs. Like everyone has a sad story. Everyone's sad in this world, and that also feels very anime to me. So immediately I kind of shifted my nose up a bit. Like, come on, you guys can go a bit beyond this. But I ignoring everything I just said, you're right. The facial cues, the fact that they even exist in animation, and that it's so well done, is a testament to this show. And I wish more shows were like it.
Yes, and that's what makes me angry. And also, I want to shift the attention to the audience for a bit. What do you think, Art Gang? From this conversation, I think that Sev has answered the initial questions. Can you separate art from the artist? He hates Riot, but he loves Arcane. I think I do think Arcane was one of the best things I've seen all year. Yeah, I'm like you. I won't say it was like the best thing I've ever seen, but it is a goddamn good show. It is good. You should watch it, even if you don't like League of Legends. My girlfriend doesn't. Not only does she not like video games, she kind of hates LOL in general, because all her friends are basically these LOL drones. Not all her friends, but some of her friends were basically these like LOL fanatic drones that seemed like they were husks of human beings. So she developed a distaste for the title. So when I suggested we should watch Arcane, she was like, "Ugh, that's LOL. I'd rather throw up in my mouth and then eat it." Just to be absolutely clear, just to be absolutely clear for those if you're just not familiar, but LOL is League of Legends. Yeah, just to be very clear.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. But she watched the show, and I think that I can speak for her in her behalf and say that she also loved it.
Yes.
So yeah, it's for all audiences.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of state of the art, something that the world has not done yet, right? At this level of quality. So it's just something you need to see. This is something new, emergent, and
now I have a question for you. And
just very quickly, just for the quick final comparison between Squid Game and Arcane. We discussed before other shows, but Arcane costs about $10 million per episode, and Squid Game costs about $2.4 million. So it's about 1/4 quarter.
But Squid Game is an exception to the rule, because Squid Game was actually very, very, very cheaply made, and that was why Netflix kind of accepted it being made at all. Because I think Squid Game was one of the lowest budget shows of the year. So I don't think that is a fair comparison. I would wonder what is the budget between an Arcane and, for example,
Game of Thrones.
No, Game of Thrones is also an unfair example. Game of Thrones is huge. Like, what is a mid-tier show that...
I don't know. Well, when we spoke, I was comparing it to Wheel of Time, and they have the same budget. And I said that
that's a great example.
And I said that I don't like the CGI in Wheel of Time because I feel like it's really crap. So I think all of like $5 million of their budget was spent on Starbucks or some bullshit like that. Because I mean, come on, you don't need so much coffee. Just make animation better, or just don't put them in if you can't do a good job of it. Like, just don't reduce the runtime for those scenes because it's crap. And
there are two things that probably we can have that. It would be hypocritical of us to say, just be better at animation, and ignore the fact that I said earlier that Arcane had underpaid artists. So probably the reason why the budget per episode is probably low was because Fortiche Production or Riot Games cut corners on paying their talent. At the same time, I have no idea if we can keep this level of quality just in general for other animated shows. For example, out of complete curiosity, like I said, I played Dota, which is a League of Legends type game. And as soon as I finished watching Arcane, I discovered that in Netflix, they actually have a Dota animated series as well.
Oh.
I was like, oh, interesting. I'm going to see what this is about. I immediately closed it. Again, the animation was jank. The voice acting was kind of subpar. That Dota, which I actually really love, and I like I love the company behind Dota, which is Valve. I immediately was, this is a cash grab. It looked so poorly made. It looked not so poorly made. The animation was the art was still good. It's just the animation was shit. And the art is like how pretty the image is. The animation is how well it moves. And in the Dota show, it moved so clunkily. Like it had like 5 frames per second. Again, the voice acting was it's too anime. And I immediately, oh no, this isn't for me at all. I close it. It's bad. But I don't know how much money it costs per episode. And I also don't know how much money, I'm actually going to check that out, how much money Invincible costs per episode. So I'm also going to make you a question, which will lead into that to that contest, which is because I didn't, game you wanted to play with.
The game, yeah.
Because I didn't play League of Legends, I feel like part of the appeal that people have of Arcane is nostalgia. Is that people played the game for so long that when they see a well-made show, they go, oh, I know what that is. That character is that hero I played. Oh, I know what that is. That is the item I bought. Oh, I know what that is. I know that reference. Lane, creep, potion. Like, oh, I know these names. And I feel like there's a lot of nostalgia behind it. Is it true? Is it not? Do you see where I'm coming from?
I think the fact that the show came from the studio that made League of Legends, you could have that expectations and people would be drawn to watch it. But I definitely don't think that's the case. They're very elegant in the way they do it. They do have some kind of fan. What do you call it? What do you call it? Fan what? I'm missing the second part of the word.
Fan.
It's not fiction. It's like when you pander. I'm missing the words. Anyway, my English is terrible today. When you pander to your audience and you try to present something that you reward only the audience of the game. They have just sometimes you do have some revelations. Oh yeah, that's recognizable. But honestly, it's so well welded into the show that without it, it's just beautiful, and it's not so over the top. It's not all over the place. It's just it's really well done, and I don't think it's the volume of those. Man, what's the word? They just do it in anime all the time.
I know
it's fan.
I know what you mean. I'm also getting stuck in the word. It's fan appeal, fanfare. I don't know.
Whatever. Anyway, you get the point, guys, and. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. They do have it a little bit, but it's very subtle, and I think it's just the case that, the people who play League of Legends would see a little bit more, but it's not so obvious as to it's only for them. It's just, it's very well welded into the show. It's not blatantly out of place. It's just so good. So I don't think that's... But it would have appealed to the audience of League of Legends. To me personally, I didn't want to watch it because I knew it was from League of Legends because my expectations were kind of, it's just going to be one of those stupid...
Myth,
yeah, and I mean, for Squid Game, my expectations were also very low, just to be very clear. For both of them, my expectations were very low. And... yeah, one of them was just, oh, wow. And the other was like, okay. Yeah. Okay, so yes, we will do a small mini game.
But before that, I'm just going to say that Invincible, a show that I watched, has the budget of 40 million, the whole show. And Arcane has 10 million per episode, which is 8 episodes. So we can say that has 80 million. So Arcane has double the budget of Invincible.
But how many episodes did... Invincible have, and how long is one episode?
They were also an hour long, and it was also 8 episodes. So 40 million.
Okay, half the budget
divided by 8.
And probably the artists were appropriately paid. So
I wouldn't. I'm not gonna.
Wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know, and I'm not gonna put my hands on the fire on that. It's probably they also weren't.
Okay,
it was Invincible is an Amazon series, so if I know anything about Amazon.
Okay, I don't. Oh well, I see where you're going there. Okay, yeah. So just
to that game.
Yes, just a brief introduction to the audience. Yes, so Sev, when we were talking about this episode, he said, "Oh, I've never played League of Legends. I am curious what characters are from the game, what characters are not, but I don't want you to tell me. I want to guess. So here we go. We have a mini game for Sev, and hopefully at home you can watch with us. I will try. I mean, again, no promises, but hopefully you will have the images on YouTube for this episode for the characters that we're talking about. I am a terrible editor. I don't have much expertise, but I'll try to make it work for you guys. Yeah, for the art game here. Okay. So, having said that, just a little bit of, I kind of thought, let's do top 10. And then I couldn't do top 10. There were more characters I wanted to put in. And well, fuck it. I don't want to be mainstream. So I did 13 characters because I felt like, why not? Why not 13?
Lucky 13.
Yeah, why not 13? Yeah. And the other thing I want to say is I didn't want to have any bias. So what I did is, well, obviously I am biased in the characters that I did choose. But I didn't want to have any bias in order, so I just assigned a number for each of them, did a random generator, and then just arranged them accordingly to whatever I got.
You're such a nerd.
Spit out. No, because I didn't want you to, think, maybe because Jay is thinking this, so he would do this, Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So, anyway. So
no, this is all mind games.
Maybe. Ooh.
These are 13 characters that aren't in the game at all.
They're not even in the TV show Arcane.
Wait a second, this is a Game of Thrones character.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so enough hype. Actually, I should look at it as well while you do it, because otherwise I'm not going to be... Yeah, but anyway, you can open the document so you can look at the things.
I have the first character that it shows. I'm also going to do a bit of the reasoning behind my thoughts here.
Yeah, if you don't mind. The way I'd like you to do it is... So you'll see a character. I mean, for the first one, you already saw it, but I would like you to give like a 2-second gut answer. Yes or no. It's like, yes, it is in League of Legends.
No. I'm going to leave it in the end, man. I'm going to leave it to the end.
I want you to give the gut answer first and then explain. No?
No.
We didn't agree, guys. This episode is canceled.
I do have gut answers, but I like to walk through the process. Just first? Yes or no. It's I want to sell something to the audience. I don't want to just say yes next.
Okay.
But okay, so I'm looking at Caitlin Karaman. This character in the show is basically has a good shot. So, and I feel like that is a skill that a person would put in a video game, like Assassinator or whatever. And she also has a very recognizable silhouette. I'm going to say that she is a League of Legends hero, playable hero.
Yes, she is.
God damn, I'm good. 1-0. Next.
Okay. I'm not checking score. I forgot about that. Oh, Jesus.
I'm keeping it.
Okay, good.
Don't worry.
Good.
Ambassador Medarda, the mother of the kind of pervy dictator mother of one of the other characters. I also feel like she has this very recognizable silhouette, and sometimes it's all about that. In video games, you just want a character distinct from all the others, and she clearly is. Just because of her immense size, her scarring, her hair. She appears very little on the show, and when she appears, she's basically a creep. But I can definitely see her as did I see her with a weapon? I'm going to say that she is as well.
No, she is not. I will say one thing, though, which I forgot as a disclaimer as well. Is like, I'm pretty sure most characters, but the way the show presents characters, like when they first appear, it's not obvious if they are a character or not. So they kind of, okay, that's who he is. So I'm just going to say, like, this is my knowledge from like 3 years ago. I did check on them just to make sure there are no new heroes or champions or whatever. But as far as I know, I'm correct on all of them. As far as I know. Okay.
One question. Is she in the lore of League of Legends? Or is she a completely new character?
I would not know specifically, but if, I would have to look that up. The lore of League of Legends has been way too big now. I have no idea.
Okay. So you're not aware of her at all?
No, not personally. No.
Next question. Clagger. Oh, this guy is such a minor character. Not a hero. Not in the lore.
Wow, not even trying to explain anything. Yes, he isn't.
No,
he isn't.
He isn't. There you go. It's because he's a minor character.
Yeah.
At first, I thought he was going to grow up to be someone.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say, I don't want to spoil, but we don't see him grow up. So I don't know. I don't know anything about him. He just kind of disappears by the very early on in the show. Sorry.
Oh, what's let's just mute that. I'll just mute that.
No. I mean, I'm not saying anything about the character. I just say that I see very little of him.
Yeah.
So I don't really.
Yeah. To be fair, I added him as the 13th because I felt like 12 was odd. It just didn't sound right. So he was the 13th edition.
I got that one right. Now, Jace. This character always appears very clean in the show. So you would think that he is not a champion. But there is a moment on the show where he appears with armor. And I feel like that is probably how he presents himself in the game, is with like a power armor with a hammer. There's a lot of hammers symbolism. Not symbolism. He's associated with the hammer basically. His family were smiths. His logo is the hammer. So I think he is a playable character.
Yes, he is. He's also in Crystal Saga: Children of War. No, I'm kidding. That's just free promotion. That's just free promotion.
Jace. I also wanted to talk briefly about that, but I'm trying not to forget.
Yeah.
Grayson. I mean, I immediately recognize the actress, the voice actress. She has a very distinct voice. But
I by the way, I have no idea who that actress is. She definitely has a very distinct voice. I had no clue who that person is.
I don't know her name, but I immediately know her. I can see her face, and her face isn't that different from this character, and that's why I'm going to say this probably is a made-up character for the Arcane, because this feels like they enjoy the actress a lot and her body of work, and they just wanted to embody her in the show. So I'm going to say that Grayson is not in the show, not in the lore, not in the game, not in the lore.
She's not in the game. I wouldn't know about the lore specifically. Another
one bites the dust. I'm 4 for 1.
Okay,
I'm
good.
Nailing this. Vander. This one I don't know. I feel like he's in the lore, but not as a playable character, because he has this mythos around him. I feel like someone. I think he was made to be recognizable, but I don't think he's that important. I'm saying he's in the lore, but not in the game.
Oh, okay. So he's not in the game League of Legends. Okay. Well, I will say it this way. He's not, but maybe he is, if that's a good enough answer.
It is not.
Because that's what we get.
He's not in the, but you can play him.
No. He's not, but maybe he is, because we're not sure. Because the way the show presents him is like maybe he actually is. There is foretelling, right? Foreshadowing, but it's not 100%.
So he can become a character.
Yes, probably, maybe, most likely, but we're not 100% sure. But likely, yes.
So this is a mystery character.
But likely, yes.
I got it wrong.
It's more towards yes than no.
Then I got it wrong. Cecil B. Heimerdinger, also known as the dog character.
Oh, is it what he's known? Okay. Those are yordles.
Puppy.
They're yordles. The species is called the yordle.
Very good. My girlfriend just kept calling him the little dog.
Okay.
God, I feel like he probably exists inside a mech suit or something. He feels like a character that the tiny man in a big armor. I feel like he's probably a playable character.
He is. He is not inside a suit of armor.
Oh, not even a mech?
Nope. He's just by himself, walking around with his wrenches, and he builds stuff and throws stuff. Yeah.
I have to see that then. I have to search that. Next, Echo. Oh, this guy's clearly a playable character. Has to be. He has too much style, and basically his whole character kind of felt like a video game. So he has to be a hero.
Yes, he is.
There you go.
Yep.
Nailed it. Next, Victor. I feel like this is another one of that Vander situation where as we see him right now, he's not a hero yet, but he's going to become one. He's going to become the hero that is in the game. Like Victor is you see him evolve throughout the show, and I feel like he's this character between good and evil, and I just have this gut feeling that he's going to shift into a a more recognizable silhouette, more recognizable character in future seasons. Am I right? Is he a hero?
He is a hero.
Going to be a hero?
He's a hero, yes.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
But is he... well, going into spoilers, is... In the show, would you recognize him as a hero?
Yes, but not until... Well, not until his name is mentioned.
Oh. So I was right. Like, he hasn't evolved into his hero.
Yeah, exactly. He's not recognizable, but his name is very much clear. I mean, you could tell maybe by his accent. You could, that could be kind of the foreshadowing. But not until you actually hear his name. You wouldn't know. Unless maybe some people really know the lore, but I was curious about him specifically, and the lore in the League of Legends and in the show seem quite different. I didn't read it in detail, but the story is not the same. Like the way he is brought up or whatever, his childhood is not the same.
Marcus, I will immediately say that he is not a hero. He doesn't seem like he actually seems like a very, very generic character. Like they wanted someone to be like a sympathetic villain sort of guy, so he just let's make a guy who is absolutely detestable, but he has a family. So if he's a hero, I'm even more disappointed with Riot Games. But I'm gonna say he's not.
Yes, he is not a hero.
Very good, right?
Did I lead you on? I really tried to lead you on.
You did make me mistag my score here.
Yes, perfect.
Sevica. I like her because she has 7 in the title. And she...
Oh, shit, I didn't even think of that. All right, yeah.
I think that because she has a very unique weapon, that she has to be a hero. If this feels almost like... I can imagine her skill set already. Big punch or whatever. She has to be a hero, right?
Big punch, that's a great name for a skill. No, she's not a hero.
What?
Exactly. She's so good, right? All the fans want her to be a hero.
That caught me completely by surprise.
Right. Everyone wants her to be a hero.
But also, without spoiling, this character is kind of like a henchman figure, but my girlfriend loved her.
She's a good character, and a lot of characters. I mean, there are more characters I would like to put in here as well on the list, but
Yeah. Mel Medarda. I feel like, she is the daughter of that big creep that I talked about earlier. Because women can be pervs too. Yes, Mel Medarda. She is the daughter of the big creepo from earlier. And I feel like she's in the lore, but she is not a playable champion because she does seem rather petite. I don't see her as using weapons. I don't see her using magic. She just seems like a diplomatic politician. I don't think there is a political side to League of Legends. So I'm going to say that she's not a playable character.
She's not.
Is she in the lore?
Well, again, I don't know the lore in detail. I wouldn't know. But
right.
Actually, well, I would say right now, as far as I know, she's not. But who knows? Because she's kind of shrouded in mystery, and she's one of my favorite characters.
I did like her. Also think she looks really cool with the whole black and gold aesthetic.
She does, doesn't she?
Silco. The Joker. I also thank you for avoiding the 2 main protagonists. That
I guess, again, that's another disclaimer I forgot. Like, the main protagonists are obviously in the game, so I didn't put them in. Yeah. Like Vi and Powder Jinx, I just didn't put them in because they're very obviously in the game.
Question, though, is Jinx... I immediately know, as soon as someone said, you're a Jinx, I mean, okay, that's her League of Legends name. But is her name also Powder in the game?
Do you want me to get into the lore?
No, I just want to tell me if people
it's
also call her Powder or not.
No, it's not
it's not her name. But have they called her Powder in the game or at all?
Again, how much do you want me to get into the lore? I'll tell you. But
just a yes or no.
No.
Okay, very good. Just Jinx then. About Silco though, the Joker bad boy. By the way, this was my favorite character.
Oh, he's so good, isn't he? He is by far, yeah. I agree.
The voice acting, the style of the character, the whole... I mean, he's evil, but he isn't like cartoonishly evil. I absolutely loved him. And again, the I think when you talked about earlier about the little details and facial expressions, I think he's the one who does it the best.
Even though he has one bad eye.
Yeah. I really, really liked Silco. I don't see him as a playable character though. I mean, he's so distinct. I feel like he's one of those situations where he's going to evolve into the iconic hero version that you see in the game. But as he is, and also because in the show, it doesn't give any. Usually, like with Victor, the show gives hint that he's going to evolve. In the show, they don't give any hints to this guy. I'm going to say that he's not a playable character.
You are correct, sir. You see right through them. Were you on the Fortiche development team? Were you one of the underpaid artists?
Yes. That's why I'm so bitter.
So I guess it is more obvious than I expected. But okay, yeah, good enough. I mean, that's interesting as well for me because, from the perspective of a person who never watched the show, how obvious are their cues in the game. And also, I was kind of sad. There were some hero characters that I felt like they had no chance to be doubtful if they, if they have a short arc. And there's a lot of attention on the characters that are in the game. Like the only one I would say that doesn't get as much attention is maybe Echo. He appears very little until maybe later on.
But I would say that Echo, the flying skateboard owl man. I mean, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, this is a video game.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. He was probably the part I least enjoyed in the show, and it's not necessarily his fault. It's because I felt like he had a role to play in the earlier section of the show, but then he disappeared, and when he came back, I don't feel like he added anything. I didn't really care about the flying owl people.
Yeah, I feel like his introduction was a bit. Yeah, it doesn't feel like there is much backstory to him, does it? Like, there isn't much context for him. Like Victor is very developed. You see the character develop. Like Jace, you see it very develop very strongly. I mean, Melmadarda as well. Those are like Silco by far. I mean, come on. So for me, Silco is the main hero of this story. Come on, this story is about him. This is all about him.
Surprisingly so.
No, it is so good. Oh my god, man, I'm getting emotional. It is so good.
And it makes me surprised that he's not even is he not even in the game at all in terms of lore.
I mean, again, I don't know the lore so well. I would know the lore of some heroes, but not of the actual backstory. There's way too much. They develop way too much stuff behind the scenes.
I was wondering if he'd be like an iconic, these games usually have like shopkeepers or whatever. He'd be an iconic shopkeeper or something.
No, not as far as I will tell you. Like the Heimerdinger's pet. That's an iconic, the goat, whatever, guinea pig. That's an iconic kind of thing in the game. But yeah, like not Silco, not. But dude, I'm thinking back to the episode we did on what was it? Is it villains against heroes or something? I don't remember what evil characters. I don't remember the topic, but we talked about my point of view is that there are no villains and heroes. They just have opposing viewpoints, and I think Silco is such a good embodiment. He in the beginning of the game, he's very obviously a villain, but as you get to know his story and like his development, he's like, oh my god, he's such a good full-fledged character. I cannot consider him a villain. Like, he's just a character. He's human. Like, he's such well-written character.
I agree with you. And the thing that I disliked the most is that this show had a really, really, really strong Joker Harley Quinn vibe. The main difference from that in comparison of the Joker Harley Quinn is that instead of being two lovers, it's kind of like a father-daughter relationship. And Silco is the father, obviously. So, and I kind of appreciated that, but it did bring me back to two lunatics running an asylum sort of vibe. Especially with Jinx, who is very much a Harley Quinn-esque character.
Yeah, they do have that's true, yeah.
What is your opinion on the protagonist, though? Because I kind of digged Vi, and I liked a lot the voice actor of Jinx Powder. And I think because you see them since they're children, and you see them grow up, and I think that the tiny girl version of Jinx, Powder, was really cute. Like, they made her really sympathetic. But at the same time, I feel like her transition into Madness was a bit... like, her transition into the Harley Quinn-esque character was a bit... come on.
What do you mean? Like, sudden? I don't know what you mean.
It was a bit sudden. It was a bit forced. Like, she went from complete apeshit crazy. She went from adorable little girl with some issues to absolute mass murdering lunatic, and that felt like she was, and by the end of the show, she was considered like this unstoppable force, and I didn't believe that at all. But I guess it's animation. I mean, whatever.
I mean, I will say I disagree with you on that point for two reasons, and one reason is But I was taking the pictures for this. I took screenshots of the show, and I was reviewing the first episode. And I think they have some clues that she was always this kid. She was not all right, and I didn't realize it the first time I saw it. But I think if you review the show, maybe you'll have some clues in. But I will also. Just to finish. So, sure. I mean, in the beginning, when she really freaked out at the beginning of the show, you could always see she had issues. So I don't think it was too sudden, but maybe the contrast of how powerless and bratty she was, and just suddenly the most powerful person because she was. Well, not too many spoilers, I guess. There was already some spoilers, but yeah, that was a little bit too contrasting. The difference was too big.
Yeah, that. Probably,
but not. I would not say on the mental issues. On the mental issues, I think that's fair.
All right. I'll accept that compromise. You answered my question before I asked it.
Oh,
very
okay.
well.
Yeah, fair enough.
That was. I mean, do you want to say anything else about Arcane? I feel like, even though I have distaste for the company behind it, I can look at this show and say anyone who watches it will have a good time.
Yeah.
And for different reasons, probably. You can just watch this show and think, oh, it's gorgeous. I really like the artists. Or you can watch it, oh, that's amazingly well animated, amazingly well acted, and with modules. The voice acting is very good in this show. And it has no reason to be this good. The voice acting is excellent. Or you can just watch this show and say, oh, you know what? This is like a good revenge plot told in cartoon form. Or you can just watch this and oh, I like League of Legends, and I just want to see these characters come to life. All these reasons. You can watch the show for every single one of those reasons, and you can take enjoyment out of every one of them. So it is a really good show.
I will say it's a show that is worth the hype. It is worth... TV shows are an experience, and I think this is an experience you should try giving a go. If you don't like the first episode, that's fine. Just move on. But I think you should definitely give it a look. It is something new. It's as Sev said, it's usually shows are not this good. A lot of people are raving on the internet about game adaptation TV shows that are usually crap, and this is the only well done version of a game adaptation TV show. So you should give it a look just for that. If you enjoy games at all or anything, just as a
Go ahead.
Yeah, just a mark on history, what it represents.
In terms of all the games turned movies or shows, this is probably the best translation. There is no other game that successfully became a movie or a show. I mean, the closest one was Tomb Raider, I think. Mm. And besides that, I can't think of another example.
Yeah, people are raving about it on the internet. I will say we're pretty much done with our hour. We didn't really get too much into the other things like Woody Allen and Louis C.K. So I guess we'll just...
It's more of the same. It's people that create good art, but whose personal behavior and whose personal lives did something so egregious that it infected the way that you perceive their art. And I'm just gonna, because you said we're almost done with the hour, I'm just gonna quickly talk about my book, because I went through a process that kind of made me question if I should include something in the book or not. Years ago, I should say that I started writing this book 8 years ago. So I reached a point where in my book, there are these characters that are basically sentient robots. Right? So they're magic turned to life. Magic gains sentience in the body in a suit of armor. And there's a specific
Spoiler
race
alert!
in the book. I mean, it's not spoiler, it's a goddamn race. It's like saying that the Lord of the Rings has orcs.
I'm kidding. I'm just trying to rile you up.
Yeah. So there are these characters, right? And as I write the book, I have a hard time calling them by their gender, because I keep saying that's he. My characters keep calling these robots he. And my reasoning behind it is because it's magic imbued in a suit of armor. And suits of armor usually have male proportions. So you're calling them he's because of that. But there's a conversation in the book that I added because I felt like there was a gender question here that I needed to explore myself as an author. So I had these two characters speak to each other as a way to process how I should approach this. And basically, a character asks, why are they called he's? I mean, they don't reproduce. And the other character says, well, it shouldn't be he's, you're right, but it shouldn't be she's. The best thing we could call it is it. In fact, I'm butchering my own quote. They're not he's, they're not she's, but they shouldn't be called it's either. I mean, the best description, the best pronoun for them is I, because they're a self-centered species. The only individual that matters is their individuality. And that made me, and this was before the whole gender identity war that went through Twitter recently. And I immediately realized, oh boy, I probably really, really minimized transgendered issues with this, because basically I'm saying transgender people's identity doesn't matter. What's your problem? You want to go from a man to a woman?
Oh my God,
that's pointless. That was basically what, after I finished writing the book and I started seeing this on Twitter, I was like, oh shit, I minimized gender pronouns,
Seth,
because
none of the LGBT community are going to read your book now. No.
No. The thing is, I actually felt like that my conclusion of the book is that gender doesn't matter. It's a tool used by society to manipulate these robot beings. And I felt, oh shit, people can really take the wrong conclusion here to the real life. And I was worried about that. Can they separate the context of my story? Because in this world, it makes sense that these robots want to get along, to integrate into society, but they keep being shunned because they're basically just dead souls come to life. So it's eerie and people distrust them and keep a distance from them. In the context of the world, my conclusion makes sense. But I always worry that people look into art and see this as, oh, but this is an analogy to the real world, and this artist is saying that transgender people should not care about gender. That it is unimportant. Like, no, listen, no.
Hey, Seth,
down.
Come on, don't put words into your own mouth. Okay, let's calm down here. I know you're the producer of your words, but let's keep it cool. I think the best solution here is let's get everyone who identifies with the LGBT community or supports them to read Sev's book and drop a comment. We'll know for sure if his worries are valid.
I don't think the reason I ended up being okay with what I came up is with the book is I feel like that there's enough common sense in the world to realize the context of art. And this is the thing where separating art from the artist, or I would even say separating art from the political climate that exists in the world around you. And is it easy to do that? There's this conversation about Lord of the Rings, for example, of how, it's an amazing series of movies. But if you look back, it's just a bunch of white dudes being cool, and the women kind of have this secondary role. But the white dudes are really cool, and they save the world against the evil horde of suspiciously looking black things. And there is this debate about, oh, this is kind of racist, or there's a lot of these questions about Lord of the Rings where people try to, in the future, and the political context that exists, remove the value that the movies have, and I'm against that. Like I'm completely in favor of artists having this excuse of saying this is a product of our time. This is a story in the context of this world. This is the world I built. Another example of that done well is Warner Brothers, who do these cartoons like Daffy Duck and Porky Pig and Bugs Bunny. And if you look at those cartoons, some of them are sexist, racist, whatever. They make jokes that are at the time were considered okay, but evolved since then to become a bit risque. And the authors didn't censor it, didn't remove that, but they just put a disclaimer saying that these were a product of their time and the political context of their time.
Interesting.
And I'm a big advocate of that. So if anything, that's the final lesson I wanted to leave in this podcast. Is not only separating art from the artist, but separating art from the current culture, from from the environment, just reading it as it is.
Mhm.
Obviously, if the artist does something particularly egregious, like I don't know, rape or torture or something completely out of this world evil, then it is okay to say I don't want to support anything this man does or this woman does, and I'm just going to separate away. But that is a discussion each individual has to have with themselves.
Yeah, it is true. And just a quick answer on that aspect of the political situation or whatever the current state. I think George R. R. Martin explains it very well in one question that is made to him regarding this. There was I forgot there is the army of Daenerys Targaryen, and someone makes a an argument like, why are they all brown? Like, what's with that? That's racist. And he says, well, you need to have into consideration that there are logistic issues, and that show was filmed in Morocco. And if you want to hire a variety of actors in Morocco, and you just hire extras, like you're not gonna handpick people for a variety. That would be racist, right? So you just put an ad for extras in Morocco, and people who live in Morocco happen to be brown. So that's what it is. And I think people are sometimes
reading too much into it.
Yeah, way too much into it, or maybe don't consider the other aspects of reality. Like it's as if you could handpick people, like whatever person you want. Like people also sometimes don't want to be in a show. Like maybe you want to have a specific person to play a character because of their ethnicity, but maybe that person refuses. Like you don't even consider that, do you? So yeah, and the closing statement for me is I definitely think I can separate art from the artist. I can enjoy any art form.
The best.
Yeah, but again, over the years, I believe my moral flexibility became much looser over time. Just my personal experience. I was much more fundamentalist in this aspect, perhaps before, and I think a lot of people are, and I think that's the tribal nature of humanity. Ooh, very deep final statements.
Yeah, there is this interest of being loud and outraged. And it's not to turn into not to delve into the conversation of outrage culture, cancel culture. That doesn't really matter. But there is loud voices are heard the best, and there is a lot of crying babies, I would say. And it's not that you just have to look at the art as it is first. And unless there is something completely egregious done by the artists or the community behind the creation of that art, then you have to ask yourself, do I not want to instigate this? But that is a question each one of us has to ask for themselves. In general, the general rule, the one I follow is like you're saying, is that I have my morality is relatively flexible. It's flexible. That makes it seem like I'm okay with a little bit of torture. No, my morality is based a lot on context of how the art is presented, and that is, I feel like it's such a basic lesson to be saying. It's like saying that my opinion is that the sun is bright. Yeah, it is obvious, yeah, but at the same time it feels like it goes completely under the radar most of the time, to the point where I have to say the obvious. It depends on the context. It depends on how the art is presented and how earnest and how much the artist build its trust with the audience. For example, if I were to do a stand-up and I walk up into a room full of thousands of people, and my first intention was to say the most offensive sexist shit for half an hour, people would immediately turn against me. But if I got into the stage and I build up the audience and I started testing the grounds and see how far I can go, how far people reacted, and then I might risk saying that first sexist joke, and people start to realize, oh, he's saying this as a commentary, as satire, as even a joke to himself. Sometimes the best way to make a racist joke is to make racists seem completely stupid, and therefore your racist joke isn't about the race; it's about you being an ignorant idiot. That's how, and it's how you present the content, is how you speak with the audience. And if you're just trying to provoke, like some artists are, then you deserve to be outraged and have people shout at you, sure. But there is room for flexibility there. And that is the only lesson I think I'm going to leave for today.
Okay, and that's all we have for today. We tried to get into more stuff, what we couldn't, but I will just quickly say we will try to release our donation page, which is Ko-fi, and it's just you don't have to do anything, you don't have to give anything, but if you feel like you can and you want to, please do. I mean, we'll get a coffee or tea, or maybe we'll do some other stuff with it. Maybe we'll grow a business. We'll become the Marvel of Portugal. That's what I want. That's what I want when I'm 60 years old.
You went a bit over that too quickly. I completely forgot to mention that. Yeah, we want to create this.
I wanted to mention the contest. Page. Oh, yeah. Yes. Sorry.
I was going to go a bit deeper into that donations page to say that. We wanted to get some revenue out of this creation of this podcast, so we can make contests out of it, so that we can develop, maybe get editors, maybe make some video productions, like not just have a podcast. But to do that, we're going to start with this donations page. So if you can spare any cash, if you feel like, oh no, I enjoyed these guys, I think that they have interesting things to say, or I just enjoy their good jokes and banter, put on like €2, €3, whatever you can spend. Like Jay said, a coffee's worth of money into this coffee. We appreciate anything, and we thank you for your time and attention.
Yes, and also, I mean, the page will be pretty much will have the option to use PayPal or Stripe, so pretty much a card. I mean, if you can, and if you feel safe enough, just use the card, because the fees are much lower, because there are always transaction fees, and it's significant. It's pretty much half, almost, if you use a card instead of PayPal. And that being said, I mean, I think that's it, right? The contest, we will set it up at some point. No promises for a time frame, but we would hope to get it done this year for sure. I mean, this is a slow process. We do this on our free time, so you know how it is. In any case,
now, just to leave please, if you enjoy this podcast, if you enjoy this episode, please leave a comment about examples of art versus artist. I'm actually really interested to see other examples of how you feel about it, how you see it applied to society nowadays, and what were the best examples that that you saw yourself. And if you want to follow us on YouTube or Spotify, all the links will be available in the description. And also, I am on Twitter, and I think we also have a Facebook page that you can follow if you want. And meanwhile, I'll leave it off to you.
And in any case, I'm Jay.
And I'm Sev.
Artistry Podcast.
Signing off.